Welcome to Please Me, the award-winning #1 sexuality podcast with big clit energy. We explore sexuality, intimacy, pleasure, kink, and longevity to help you live a longer, healthier, more intimate life at any age. I'm Eve Hall, your host, on a journey from trauma to sexual liberation. Here we challenge shame, celebrate pleasure, and have the honest conversations about sexuality we were never taught to have. Let's reclaim pleasure and sexual confidence one conversation at a time. Today I'm doing something a little different. As we transition between seasons of Please Me, I'm sharing a previously recorded episode from Embracing Flow podcast with Heather Almendinger, where I join her as a featured guest for a conversation on sexual wellness, intimacy, pleasure, leaks, and sexual confidence. I'm happy to share that I've been nominated for a 2026 ASN Award for Best Educator. This year it's a one-time vote, so I would truly appreciate your support. The link is in the show notes, and I thank you for your vote. If you're ready to take your pleasure and sexual health seriously, explore the Sexual Longevity Protocol, a self-paced course designed to support you long-term. And if you want to start gently, download the 30-day self-pleasure and body reconnection practices, a free daily guide to help you reconnect with your body and build pleasure one day at a time. Before we dive in, if you enjoy Please Me, please follow the podcast and leave a 5-star review. It helps more people discover the show. For ad-free episodes, early access, and exclusive content, join me on Patreon or subscribe to my premium Substack. You can find all the links in the show notes. Thank you for your support. Please Me is for mature audiences, so sit back, relax, and surrender to the pleasure of Please Me. Ladies, let's get personal for a minute. What does your vaginal health routine look like? Because as we mature, our intimate self-care needs an upgrade. If hormone shifts have you feeling dry, less sensitive, or just not quite like yourself, I've got a simple 3-step protocol I'm loving. Every morning I use my lady pump to increase blood flow and wake up the lady bits. And yes, it comes with 3 attachments for all the sensations. Then I apply Shamelessly Aroused by Shameless Care, formulated with sildenafil, the active ingredient used in Viagra, to support stronger arousal, better lubrication, and more responsive orgasms. Pair that with a daily self-love ritual, and you've got a powerful daytime combo. At night, I use Parlor Games estrogen and progesterone creams to support healthy hormone levels and resilient vaginal tissue. Fewer oops moments when I sneeze, and way more confidence when intimacy calls. Dryness, decreased sensitivity, frequent UTIs, incontinence, low blood flow? These 3 upgrades can be a total game changer, because intimate health isn't indulgent. It's essential. And trust me, you'll feel the difference.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us on Embracing Flow. I'd like to introduce our guest today, an expert at Embracing Flow, Eve Hall. Welcome, Eve. How are you doing today?
I am great. How are you today?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you so much for asking. So Eve is on today and she is an expert because she is a licensed physical therapist that treats sexual health conditions. She has a podcast called Please Me that aims to destigmatize conversations about sex and sexual health. Eve believes there is no shame in sex and no shame in having a sexual health condition. Eve loves to talk about how we all deserve love and pleasure. I love it because we do deserve love and pleasure. Eve, I've been looking forward to this podcast episode because we had a great connection, and I love what you bring to the table for my listeners. So again, thank you so much for coming on Embracing Flow.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation with you. Let's get into it.
As I start all of the podcasts, would you share a story of one of your first cycles and your experience and what age?
Absolutely. So I was 10 years old, so pretty young. I was in 6th grade, I remember, and I went to the bathroom, and lo and behold, in my underwear was a mountain of brown stuff. And I thought for sure that I had pooped myself. And I knew all about my period. And, it wasn't like I didn't know what it was. I just was expecting it to be red. And so, of course, from day one, I had horrible, painful periods. And that day was no different. And I remember going to the nurse's office, and my mom came to pick me up, and she sent me home, and my grandmother was visiting. And so I guess my mom had told my grandmother, unbeknownst to me. And I went into the bathroom, and I took off my yucky underwear and I threw them in the garbage. And again, I was only 10 years old. And, I walked out of the bathroom, and not but a few minutes later, I hear my grandmother calling me into the bathroom. And she was going to give me, my first lesson on taking care of your period, which is scrubbing out the blood from your underwear.
I remember that lesson.
And yes, and I remember she, explained to me how to do it. You run it under cold water and you scrub and scrub and scrub with soap until all of the blood comes out. And I just remember being mortified because I was not expecting my grandmother to even know that I had my period, let alone give me a lesson in scrubbing blood out of my underwear. And it was extremely embarrassing. And I just remember that was my very first period. That was my story.
That, yes, I can definitely see how someone would be traumatized by that. I really do. Had that experience helped you in where you are now? Has it, looking back, been a catalyst to you getting into physical therapy and then sexual health and sexual issues? Or did another path bring you to where you are now?
That particular story, I can't say was directly related, but I did have an experience as a child of childhood sexual abuse. And I do think that, um, and, at that time when I had my period, um, that's when, interestingly enough, the abuse stopped. So my period sort of, was the beginning of being on the other side of that sexual abuse. However, it was the beginning of me trying to heal from it. And so, through a lot of healing and through a lot of therapy and journaling and meeting with groups, etc., over the course of many years, mostly in my 20s, I would say, I, was able to heal from that abuse. But it was a very long process. And I think it's a journey, really, honestly. It's something that I still and peeling layers upon layers off of healing. And I've noticed that, since I started my podcast about a year ago, the guests that I've been speaking to and the people that I've met have actually really helped me to even further heal from that sexual abuse. And, so sexuality was something that I was always very aware of as a young lady and at an early age. And certainly it piqued my interest in the subject. And so after my divorce, I started exploring a lot more sexually. And that made me want to focus my practice in that arena. So now I do physical therapy for sexual health.
And how do you incorporate that physical therapy into sexual health? What are some of the conditions that you're seeing of clients where physical therapy does help?
Absolutely. So, one of the most common diagnoses that I see is incontinence. And you don't really think of it as a sexual health or a sexual related condition, but it really is. It does affect your sexual health. If you have incontinence that's more severe, it is going to affect your sexual health. So, that's one of the conditions. I also treat conditions like erectile dysfunction, decreased vaginal sensitivity and dryness, painful sex. And I see women who, have maybe had cancer and have had surgery in the area, or even breast cancer that they've had radiation chemotherapy that also affects women because it sets them into premenopause or early menopause. So they have to deal with all of the symptoms of that. And one of the main ones is incontinence.
And I've heard that incontinence can be from loose pelvic floor muscles as well as tight pelvic floor muscles. Is it just the pelvic floor, or are there other ligaments and parts involved with that incontinence?
Yes, so the pelvic floor plays a big role, and you're absolutely right. It can be very tight, and on a tight pelvic floor that's spasming, you don't want to do physical exercises. You want to relax the muscles, not give them more exercise. So it's really important if you do have incontinence to see a therapist, because you may not know that you're having muscle spasms in that area that are causing issues. So yeah, so incontinence, can affect women in many different ways.
Uh, and is and in all ages, correct? It's not just
And
for
at
those
all
that have
ages.
had children.
Absolutely. So a lot of people think it's like an old lady problem, right? And yes, as we get older, it becomes worse. But, it's believed that I think it's the statistic, and correct me if I'm wrong, the listeners out there, because I said this on another podcast one day, but I think it was 40% of young athletes, women athletes, experience incontinence when they're actually doing exercise. So when you're doing strenuous exercise, that can also cause incontinence too. And that's, women in their 20s. And again, it goes up as you get older because you lose estrogen. And estrogen is so important to keep the tissue healthy.
And that kind of goes into then the vaginal atrophy that we've mentioned, I believe, before, that our vaginal canal kind of loses elasticity, and ability to function at an optimal level with those estrogen levels. Is that correct?
That's
Am I
absolutely right.
okay?
Yes, yes. And vaginal atrophy, if you think of atrophy in any other muscle of the body, right? You think of like a nice big bicep and your muscles popping out. But then if you stop exercising, it just like diminishes and it becomes smaller. Or if you see somebody who has a cast, and they are wearing that cast for like 6 weeks or 8 weeks or something. And when they get the cast off, the muscle of the calf muscle is like really tiny comparing to the other one. That's muscle atrophy. And that happens because the muscles aren't being used. And, if you think of the pelvic floor as a whole bunch of muscles, and you think of the vaginal canal as, once again, a tube full of muscles, it can also atrophy. So if you don't use it, you can lose it. So exercising that part of your body and staying strong in that area is so important. And having the right amount of estrogen, because the estrogen receptors line all of that area. Your the lower part of your uterus, your vaginal canal, and also the tube that goes from your bladder all the way out of your body. There's estrogen receptors all along that tube. So if you don't have the proper amount of estrogen, those tissues become weakened and they can become very papery and thin and very prone to tears and small, breakages, especially if you're having regular intimacy. But if you're not having regular intimacy, that can also cause atrophy because you're not giving the tissue enough tensile, repetitive movement for it to stay strong. It kind of just like collapses on itself.
So we hear about Kegels or Kegels.
Mm-hmm.
That's just one part of the pelvic floor. That just works one part of the pelvic floor, correct? There's other exercises that are to be done
Yes.
that to help with the pelvic floor.
Yes, so there are so many different exercises that you can do. And, there's fast exercises, there's slow exercises, there's exercises that help you with your endurance. So holding the contraction. So there's many different exercises that I teach my clients. And I also teach them exercises to do when they're actually up and moving, because, not every time that we need, to strengthen our pelvic floor, we're laying on our backs. It's not a practical position. So you want to do these exercises in motion when you're lunging, when you're doing jumping jacks, when you're, jumping rope. The times when you are actually challenging yourself, and those are the times that you have those oops moments. Those are the times you want to do those exercises as well.
You said about with the vaginal canal that using it, uh, and for those that don't have a partner, is there some way that they can work those muscles without having a partner or engaging in intercourse?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, there are so many different toys that are out on the market. And I just updated my website, pleaseme.online, and added a whole bunch of really wonderful toys on there. And, you can use a dildo internally. There's vibrators that can help you to, stimulate externally and internally. But definitely, using a dildo of some sort can help you with that particular issue that you're discussing.
And one of the things that we discussed off recording was
Mhm.
intercourse during menstruation.
Mm,
All and yes, it seems like it is a very taboo subject because menstruation is taboo, but this is even a step further, and the benefits we get as females when having intercourse on while we're menstruating. Um, what are some of those benefits?
absolutely. Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, decreasing the pain that you may be having. So if you have painful periods, this can help to decrease the pain. Um, you know, because there's wetness there already, you don't need as much lubrication, although blood can dry up. So keep the lube close. And I always say keep the lube close no matter what, right? Um, but yeah, absolutely, decreasing the pain. And then, of course, if you're having an orgasm, right, you're releasing all of those feel good chemicals that are going to help you to de stress and to feel good. So it's going to help you have a better day.
That it can, because yeah, it does. It's been shown, scientifically shown, orgasm helps with headaches, it helps with pain, it helps um reduce just the stress that we're under. And it also relieves those endorphins and the oxytocin. So we're feeling closer to our partners if we're engaging in that type of activity with our partner or even with the toys. It makes us feel warm and juicy. And who doesn't want to feel nice and warm and juicy as we start our day or end our day,
And when
especially
you're
during
on your
menstruation?
period,
Yeah.
yes. And when you're on your period and you're not feeling the greatest, right? That is the perfect time to want to feel juicy in a good way, right?
That is so, so true. Um, One of the things that I kind of want to go back to is, how did you get into physical therapy? Uh, it's Would you share that story with us?
Sure. I did fitness for many, many years and, worked with many people that were, you know, trying to get their bodies strong and healthy. And so working with people that had a disability or a dysfunction of some sort was sort of like the natural next step for me. Because I already was very much a fitness nerd, I would say, and I was very much into fitness. So physical therapy is fitness for people that are not feeling good, in one way, shape, or form. And so it was just a very natural progression for me because I liked helping people with exercise and fitness. And, when you think of the pelvic floor and you think of, helping people with sexual dysfunction, it's a lot of the same. I'm teaching exercises, I'm keep teaching strategies to maintain their health and to, have a better health in that arena.
So with our partners, I mean, that's kind of jumping a little bit here.
Mhm.
How can we communicate with our partners on when it comes to our pleasure?
I think that's so important. And I think that a lot of us don't do this enough. And that's why there exists such a large orgasm gap. And, I'm sure that you're aware of what that is, but I will explain it here. The orgasm gap is a phenomenon where in heterosexual relationships, women are having much less orgasms than men. So, there's different categories of statistics, but I'll just go through one in coupled penetrative sex. Women experience orgasm about 56% of the time, where their male counterparts experience orgasm about 95% of the time. So, there's a huge gap. And so it's very, very important to express what your needs and your wants are. And the first thing that I say women must do is get in touch with their own sexuality and their own bodies and learn to masturbate and learn to come and, climax on your own. Because only through that will you be able to relay that information to your partner and share it with them. And, I know that the first conversation is always really the very, very most difficult one. But after that, it becomes much easier. And each subsequent conversation builds on the last. And so, I suggest that people start small and maybe give the highlights after you've just had sex with your partner, right? Give the highlights of the things that you really enjoy, because you really want to focus on giving them positive reinforcement and giving them tips on what you really enjoy so that they can repeat that and never ever fake it. It's believed that 80% of women have faked orgasm in their lifetimes. And if you're faking it, you're actually teaching your partner what you don't like. So don't fake it. Even if they ask you, so were you able to get there? It's okay to say, not this time, but hey, we could use my toy and get me there now. Do you want to hold it here? You know, and bring them in, because they want to pleasure us. And I would say that for the most part, our partners do want to pleasure us. So, really giving them some information about what turns us on is important because they cannot read our minds and we can't expect them to.
Nope. And we'd want the same thing, that if they would like something and we don't, if they would come to us and say, well, we want this, or why don't you do this? It's like, I didn't know that you wanted that. And it goes both ways, and it opens up that door, and it builds intimacy, and it builds connection. So yeah, I wholeheartedly agree on that conversational piece.
Yes, it's so key.
With there, again, kind of going back a little bit with the vaginal dryness and sensitivity and the decrease, is there a way to regain that once we notice it?
Yes. So there is a treatment that I do called acoustic wave therapy. And this treatment is so good for helping to increase vaginal sensitivity and dryness. And the reason why we get dry down there is because there's a lack of blood flow. And if you think of erectile dysfunction, right, and there's no blood flow to the penis can't get up, right?
Mhm.
So it's a very obvious issue with men. But with women, what happens is that there's a decrease in blood flow. And so the blood is what brings lubrication to the area because the walls of the vagina, the plasma seeps through the walls of the vagina to lubricate the vaginal canal. And externally, the vulva and clitoris, etc. So it's so important to have proper blood flow. So what the acoustic wave therapy treatment does is it unblocks the blockages in your blood vessels. And it also allows over time for more blood vessels to be created. So that's called a new capillary formation. And so if you get the treatment over time, over, multiple sessions, it's going to help that blood flow, which is going to also help with the lubrication and the sensitivity. The sensitivity will also return as well.
That sounds like a wonderful thing for so many individuals, that they have that ability to do that, to bring back life to themselves and their bodies, and even that time with their partner.
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, who doesn't want to be intimate with their partner until they're in their 80s and 90s and beyond, right? I mean,
Exactly.
we want love throughout our whole lives, It's not like suddenly you get to a certain age and you're like, "Okay, I'm done," I
Yeah.
you wanna be able to love each other for a long time. So, it's a beautiful thing to be able to reconnect in that way, and many times women haven't connected with their partner in years in that way, because they were having pain, or they were, not able to, have enough lubrication. And so it was too painful or uncomfortable, and, or causing a lot of different infections, etc. And so people sort of write it off instead of really looking for solutions. And this is a beautiful solution to that problem.
And it brings back self-confidence there as well. Because if you know that you're able to give your partner what they're looking for, and you're feeling good yourself, that it does increase that self-confidence. Um, so yeah, it's you're changing lives.
Absolutely. I think so too. And I love helping people with, this area of their lives, because I get to hear the stories, of how, I have one client that says he's never had, he's having the best sex of his life after getting treatments with me, and prior to that, he never really enjoyed sex. So to change somebody's life, and he's only 40 years old, but, he's lived 40 years of not enjoying sex. And now suddenly, he's enjoying sex. And, women that I work with as well, they're feeling, juicy and wet again when they weren't able to feel that way anymore, and having less, infections and less pain during sex, and they're enjoying themselves. And I think that is just a fulfilling thing for me as well. I really enjoy helping people in this arena, because I know how important sex is in my life. And I know that if I wasn't able to have sex, it would make me feel very sad. It would be a big loss for me. So helping people in that arena is really important. And you're right, it does give you confidence. And I like to call that confidence big clit energy. And, it's the confidence that we feel when we're having regular sex, and having wonderful regular sex with, frequent orgasms. And, when you have an amazing sex life, it makes you feel confident in yourself, and it makes you feel confident in your partnership. And it helps to translate into all the areas of your life. So you really have confidence in the boardroom, in the conferences that you're giving, or whatever it may be that you do.
I wholeheartedly agree. When it's just that extra wall of foundational support that you don't realize you need until it's not there. And once you rebuild it, you're like, wow, okay, that has a bigger impact on my life than I had anticipated. This has been absolutely phenomenal, Eve. Where can individuals find you for services, or listen to your podcast, or get to know you better? Where can we find you?
Absolutely. You can find me on pleaseme.online, and my podcasts are all there. I'm also on YouTube, so you can watch the videos of the podcasts there. And anywhere you listen to podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Listen Notes, you name it, I'm on there. Audible, I'm on all of the different platforms to listen to podcasts. But, if you want to go check out my website, pleaseme.online, I also have some really cool freebies on there as well. And I can go into that if you want me to explain.
Yes, please share with the audience what you have available.
I love wearing a bra, said no one ever. If you're tired of discomfort and want a great bra alternative, I highly recommend Cakes. I gave up bras during COVID and searched everywhere for something better, and Cakes is the best solution I've found. They offer adhesive, non-adhesive, and push-up options that give a seamless look under your clothes without straps or discomfort. If you're tired of racing to your car to pull your bra off at the end of the day, it's time to get your Cakes. I haven't looked back, and I know you won't regret it. Check the show notes for the link. If you've ever wished sex could feel more connected, more intense, or honestly just more fun, you need to check out Shameless Care. They're a telemedicine company built entirely around sexual health, real doctors, real prescriptions, and products that actually work. Like Shameless Chemistry, their oxytocin plus tadalafil blend that deepens connection and boosts arousal. Or Shamelessly Aroused, a topical cream with the active ingredient found in men's ED medication, increasing blood flow exactly where it counts. Every order includes a short video introduction from your doctor, transparent pricing, and no subscriptions ever. Just real, sex-positive healthcare that delivers results. Because you're a Please Me listener, you can use coupon code PLEASEME for $15 off your order of any product on the Shameless Care website. Use the code PLEASEME, that's PLEASEME, at checkout to claim your $15 off. Again, that's shamelesscare.com, code PLEASEME. Because great sex shouldn't be complicated. It should be shameless. This episode is sponsored by Shameless Care.
Yeah, so I have an amazing store on there with lots of really cool toys that I've curated with a friend of mine who has a beautiful online store. And so lots and lots of really fun sex toys to add to your practice. I also recommend several different products to help with vaginal health. And some of them seem very obvious, like the hormones. And that's the estrogen that I personally take and the progesterone that I personally take. And I highly recommend to others to really give that tissue, all of the, hormones that it needs to be as healthy as possible. Then I also have some nutrition products on there that I also recommend. And then I have another separate tab of free webinars that I've done. And those webinars cover things like, how to get big clit energy and how to get big dick energy and how to have wetter and wilder sex, etc. And there's maybe 5 or 6 webinars, and I add to that on a monthly basis. So check those out. They're really, really informative and a lot of fun.
I love it. And all of those links can be found in the show notes. Before we leave, do you have any wise words of wisdom to share with us?
I do. And, we were talking last week together, and I, really appreciate the topic of this podcast and talking about women's menstrual cycles and embracing them. I think that is the biggest thing, because I feel like for such a long part of my life, I was constantly doing things that, were maybe medical treatments, like taking the pill and, all of these things that were, maybe not the best thing that I could have done. I wasn't embracing my flow. I was trying to tamp it down, and really trying to learn, the natural cycle of your body and get in tune with that, because you can really affect yourself in such natural, beautiful ways and be in touch with your femininity and your divine feminine by really becoming in touch with your cycle. So I just wish I would have known all of this, 30 years ago. But I know it now, and I get to share it with others. And so I would say just, trying to get in touch with your natural flow would be a beautiful thing for all women.
If you're looking to deepen your connection to your body, your pleasure, and your intimate life, you're not alone. I offer sexual health and intimacy coaching to support you with confidence, communication, pleasure, and sexual well-being. You can also explore my self-paced 3-module course, The Sexual Longevity Protocol, designed to help you build lifelong intimacy, pleasure, and sexual vitality. It's available now for $47. If you're ready to take the next step, you can book a free 15-minute discovery call. The link is in the show notes. Thank you for being here.
Are you looking for a sexy date? Look no further than SDC.com. SDC.com is the premier ethically non-monogamous website that is worldwide. It also hosts a wealth of information on sexuality and sexual health, and I host a free live webinar monthly on the site. You can use code 37340 for a free trial membership on me, and be sure to reach out on the site and say hello.
I want to personally invite you to join me on Patreon for ad-free listening, bonus episodes, and early releases. Already there is a lot of bonus content on there with many webinars that I've done in the past and a show that I've never released to the public before. My show is completely self-funded, and when you are able to support me in this way, I'm able to spread my message of body positivity, self-love, and women's empowerment and empowerment in general around sexuality around the globe. And so with that being said, I appreciate everyone who has already joined Patreon. And if you've thought about joining, now's your nudge to do so.